When I worked inside casinos, I noticed something strange. It wasn't about the flashing lights or the ringing sounds. Those were part of the show. It was about who got close to certain machines and who didn't. There were machines that seemed ordinary at first glance. Same lights, same jingles, same crowds. But if you paid attention, you'd see patterns. Floor managers hovered nearby. Surveillance cameras quietly panned toward them more often. And if a player sat there for too long, especially one who seemed to know what they were doing, a pit boss would suddenly appear. That was when I realized some slot machines aren't just games. They're protected assets. See, casinos don't fear luck. They fear intelligence. They know that for every 1,000 people who walk in just to play, there's always one who walks in to beat the system. And while modern slots are nearly impossible to crack, there are still a handful of machines that, in the right hands, can be exploited. That's where the protection comes in. When I first joined casino operations, I thought the biggest security concerns were money laundering or card counters. But slot protection was its own quiet department. There were guidelines, internal codes, and even secret floor maps marking machines with extra surveillance. Most players have no idea this exists, but I've seen the logs, I've read the memos, and I've watched players escorted out, not because they cheated, but because they understood too much. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 types of slot machines casinos protect from smart players. Machines that look innocent, but are guarded with quiet precision. And once you understand how they work, you'll never look at a casino floor the same way again. Because here's the truth. Casinos don't just build games to make money. They build ecosystems to control behavior. Every sound, color, and seat position is engineered to influence the way you play. And when a certain kind of player disrupts that control, the casino's defenses kick in. So in this exposé, I'll walk you through how casinos detect smart play on their floors, why certain machines are quietly flagged for protection, the 5 specific types of slots that attract surveillance attention, and how to recognize when you've wandered into their territory. These aren't conspiracy theories, they're operational truths, and most of them are hidden in plain sight. Casinos aren't random. Every square foot of carpet, every blinking light, every sound loop, it's all part of a deliberate psychological layout. We called it flow mapping. When you enter through the main doors, your eyes are immediately drawn to the brightest, loudest machines, usually low-denomination slots that churn fast but pay little. Those are the warm-up zones, the psychological on-ramp for casual players. But as you move deeper into the casino, you'll find a different breed of machines. The lights are softer, the payouts higher, and the stakes greater. That's where the high-volatility slots sit. And that's where casino management gets nervous. Because buried among them are a few machines that historically have been vulnerable to pattern recognition or advantage play. They're not rigged, far from it, but their design quirks can be leveraged by observant players. During my first months working as a slot floor technician, I noticed that certain machines had more frequent service tags than others. They'd be recalibrated, tested, or sometimes even relocated after short bursts of unusual wins. That wasn't coincidence. That was control. Casinos operate on something called machine zoning strategy. It's a behavioral management system that tracks play density, average bet time, and frequency of hits. If one area starts outperforming projections, meaning players are winning more or staying longer, adjustments are made. Sometimes that means tweaking lighting or music. Other times, it means moving or guarding specific machines. I once saw a group of technicians roll out a single machine from the corner near the bar, the same one a quiet middle-aged man had been playing all week. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but his play was methodical. After his third sizable win in a row, security reviewed the footage. By morning, that machine was gone. We called these ghost removals. No announcement, no explanation. The floor just shifts overnight. And if you were paying attention, you could spot the pattern. Machines that allowed any form of advantage play, from timing patterns to payout cycles, never lasted long. But here's where it gets interesting. Casinos aren't just protecting the money. They're protecting the illusion of randomness. If players start believing certain machines can be read or predicted, the psychological foundation of the casino collapses. So they protect those machines the way banks protect vaults, quietly. You'll notice small signs. A pit boss walking by every few minutes, pretending to check tables nearby. Surveillance domes angled directly at specific machines. Out-of-order tags that appear right after a player hits multiple wins in one session. It's all part of the same operation, maintaining the myth that every spin is pure chance. But once you've worked inside, you know better. Not all slots are equal, and some are considered too risky to leave alone. The first time I heard the term protected slot, I thought it referred to high-limit games. But it had nothing to do with money. It was about vulnerability. Protected slots fall into three main categories.
Legacy machines. Older models still in use with predictable payout behavior. Bonus cycle exploitables. Newer machines with timed or feature-based cycles that can be gamed. Cross-linked progressive slots. Shared jackpot systems that can be manipulated through synchronized play. Let's start with the legacy machines. Most casinos rotate out their slots every few years, but some older cabinets, especially those from the late 1990s and early 2000s, still linger. These machines often use pseudo-random number generators, PRNGs, with shorter algorithm cycles. A skilled observer with enough patience could detect timing windows, subtle patterns in the spins. Casinos know this. That's why these legacy models are heavily watched. Not because they're defective, but because they're predictable under the right conditions. When I was assigned to audit one of these sections, I saw how seriously management took it. 2 cameras per unit. Machine logs backed up daily. If any player stayed on one for too long, more than 2 consecutive hours, a discrete security tag was added to their loyalty account for behavioral review. Then there are the bonus cycle exploitables. These are modern video slots that use visual or time-based progressions to trigger bonus rounds. Some advantage players, often called bonus hunters, track these machines across casinos. They wait until the game is primed, close to triggering a feature, then jump in. Casinos hate this, because while it's not technically cheating, it's exploiting predictable design. So when they identify bonus cycle machines that attract this kind of play, they're either repositioned, modified, or simply guarded. You'll see them in high-traffic zones, always visible, always occupied, and never left alone long enough for a hunter to strike. Finally, the most heavily guarded of all, cross-linked progressive slots. These machines share jackpots across multiple terminals or even across properties. A change in play pattern or simultaneous trigger can tilt the entire network's payout probability. Only a handful of players understand how to influence those patterns, usually ex-technicians or algorithm specialists. And if you've ever seen someone escorted out quietly after a string of moderate wins on linked progressives, now you know why. Casinos can't afford vulnerabilities. They don't fix them overnight, they manage them. And that's where protection becomes policy. When I first started working surveillance on the casino floor, I quickly learned something. The smartest players in the room often made the dumbest mistakes. They weren't losing because they didn't understand the odds. They were losing because they believed they did. Let me explain. See, There's a dangerous myth that floats around casino circles, that slot machines can be red. People talk about hot cycles, cold streaks, machines about to pay, and timing the reels. I used to hear it from seasoned gamblers who'd been playing for 20 years. They'd whisper to each other like they were decoding a secret language. But here's the truth. Slot machines don't remember. They don't build up to a jackpot. They don't get tired or due. Every single spin is a fresh roll of the dice, completely disconnected from the last one. And yet, the casinos love that players believe otherwise. Because while they're hopping from one machine to another, chasing patterns that don't exist, the casino is quietly tightening the margin, moving high-volatility machines closer to walkways and feeding data into an algorithm that predicts exactly when you'll quit or double down. Smart players think they're outsmarting the house, but the house is playing a deeper game. There's another myth, maybe the most dangerous one. It's the belief that you can sense when you're about to win. Psychologists call it the illusion of control. Casinos call it predictable human behavior. When a player starts feeling in sync with the reels, pressing the button at just the right time, staring at the spin animation, they're not gaining control, they're falling deeper into the design. I once saw a retired math teacher named Don, spend an entire afternoon on one machine. He'd tap the spin button exactly every 2 seconds. He'd say, "You just have to catch the rhythm." But the rhythm was never there. The machine was using a random number generator, RNG, that cycles millions of combinations per second. By the time his finger hit that button, the number had changed 100 million times. He wasn't chasing rhythm, he was chasing a ghost. Casinos also let a few myths flourish on purpose. Take the idea that machines are loosened near entrances to attract new players. It's not true anymore, but they don't correct it either. Because when players believe they've found a lucky machine near the door, they stay longer, they spend more, and they feel like insiders. Casinos learned long ago that belief is more profitable than truth. Then there's the gambler's biggest illusion, skill. Most people think they can develop a feel for slots like poker or blackjack or sports betting, but slot machines aren't about skill, they're about conditioning.
They're designed to feel like games of skill, through near misses, sound cues, and timing control, but under the hood, it's math and psychology woven into metal. Even the button press, that sense of control, is just an illusion. The outcome is determined before the reels even finish spinning. The animation you're watching? It's theater. A carefully crafted stage performance designed to make you believe your reaction time matters. When I worked in casino analytics, we had a phrase, keep the player in the story. As long as they believe they have a role, they'll never realize the ending is already written. Now, here's where smart players get trapped. They study payout percentages, volatility indexes, and progressive cycles. They look for patterns that don't exist in isolation. They track machines like traders track stocks. But casinos already know this. They want a class of players who believe they're too smart to lose. Because when a player believes they've mastered the system, they increase their risk tolerance. They play higher denomination machines. They stay longer. And the longer they stay, the closer they get to what casinos call the exhaustion curve. That's the point where focus fades, emotional fatigue sets in, and the player starts chasing losses they never should have had. Smart players don't lose because they're careless. They lose because they're human. And casinos know exactly how to use that. You want to know the most ironic part? Casinos don't even want every player to win or lose in the same way. They need a mix, a believable environment of randomness. That's why you'll see those big win moments play out in public. It's why slot attendants rush to machines with flashing lights, and why jackpots are celebrated with loud music and coins clattering on the screen. It's theater again, to reset the crowd's hope cycle. I used to call it the hope pulse. Every time someone nearby wins, players reset emotionally.
They forget how long they've been losing. They feel close to luck again. Casinos don't need to convince you to win. They just need to convince you to keep trying. And that's why the myths matter. Because myths don't die in casinos, they multiply. There's a hidden layer of casino design that most players never see. It's not the neon, not the sound, not even the math. It's the system that protects the machines themselves. Every slot floor has what we call protected slots. Not physically protected, not with guards or barriers, but digitally, operationally, and psychologically protected. They are the lifeblood machines, the ones that quietly pull in the majority of the revenue. And here's the secret. Casinos know exactly which ones they are. The first layer of protection is placement. Most people assume high traffic areas mean high payouts, but that's not how casinos think. When I help with floor mapping, we use software that created heat maps, digital grids that showed where players lingered, how long they played, and which machines triggered emotional responses like cheering or frustration. From that data, we'd identify what we called anchor zones. Anchor zones weren't about visibility. They were about control. They're usually placed between bars, restrooms, and high-limit rooms where casual players slow down or stop. And that's where the protected slots go. Because if you pass that machine 10 times a night and you see anyone playing it, you're more likely to sit down. The repetition builds recognition. Recognition builds trust. And trust on the casino floor is gold. The second layer is data protection. Casinos track every spin, every win, every loss, every player card swipe. They know the machine's volatility, return to player rate, and profit per hour. If a machine starts deviating too far, either paying too much or too little, it gets flagged for review. And here's where things get interesting. Some players, especially the advantage players, think they can spot loose machines using public data or by tracking observed payouts. But casinos are already ahead of them. They rotate machine programs, randomize return rates within a fixed tolerance, and even use dynamic pay tables, systems that slightly adjust payout distributions based on floor performance trends. That's right. The machine learns from the crowd. It's not just a random number generator anymore. It's a responsive environment. The third protection layer is psychological camouflage. Casinos don't want players to know which machines are profitable, but they also don't want to hide them too well. So they blend them. A protected slot might look old, dusty, even outdated, but that's by design. Players tend to trust machines that look like they've been around forever, like they've paid out before. I once helped stage a section of vintage-style machines for a retro-themed area. We made sure they looked older than they were. We even added artificial wear on the buttons. Those machines brought in 30% more playtime per user than the flashy, brand-new ones across the aisle. Players trusted the story. The fourth protection is observation. Casinos don't just track players, they watch them. From the surveillance room, I could tell when someone was trying to test the machine, using methods like bankroll cycling, pattern logging, or timed bets. The system would flag those patterns automatically, not to punish them, but to study them. If a player triggered a pattern repeatedly, the machine's future pool could subtly shift within allowed variance, reducing long-term win probability. To the player, nothing looked different, but statistically, the edge was gone. This is what I mean by protected. These machines defend themselves, quietly, invisibly. The final layer is the illusion of vulnerability. Casinos let a few machines leak wins, small, visible payouts that don't hurt the bottom line, but create buzz. They let players think they've cracked the code. But behind that illusion is an airtight control system. The casino never actually loses. That's the genius of it. When I left the industry, I realized something profound. Casinos don't need to cheat. They just need you to believe you can win. And that belief is the strongest form of protection they have. When I say protected slots, most people picture high-limit rooms or VIP lounges, but that's not what I mean. Casinos protect machines that serve a purpose. Not all of them are about profit. Some are about control. Over the years, I learned to spot the 5 slot categories casinos will never let you outsmart. Let's go through them one by one. 1. The psychological anchor slot. Every casino has a few machines that seem to call out to you, right near the entrance, glowing brighter than the rest, always buzzing with activity. But here's the secret. They're not there to make money. They're there to set the tone. When you first walk in, your brain is overloaded by sound, light, and movement. That anchor slot, often a simple game like Buffalo Gold or Double Diamond, provides comfort. It feels familiar, welcoming, safe. But its purpose is deeper. Casinos use these slots to lower your defenses. Their payout patterns are carefully calibrated. Small wins early, steady engagement, and then gradual decline, just enough to warm you up emotionally. They're the gateway machines. Once you sit, you'll stay. And even if you lose, you'll walk away believing it was just bad timing. That's what makes it protected.
Point 2. The algorithmic feedback slot. These are the real moneymakers. They use behavioral algorithms that track play duration, bet size, and reaction time. Over weeks or months, they learn your rhythm. If you always bet max after a loss streak, the system notices. If you hesitate after big wins, it adjusts. Casinos call this adaptive play modeling. It's legal and incredibly effective. These machines appear random, but they adapt subtle elements like bonus frequency or near-miss visuals to sustain interest. They're not rigged, they're responsive. That's why casinos guard these machines closely. Any malfunction, and they're pulled from the floor immediately. They're not just games, they're data collectors. If you ever notice a slot that seems to know you, you're probably playing one of these. 3. The premium mirage slot. You'll find these in high-limit areas or near exclusive lounges, $10 or $25 spins, plush seating, quiet corners. They look like high-roller games. They're meant to feel elite. But here's the twist. They're not about skill, and not even about payout. They're about status simulation. Casinos protect these because they attract aspirational players, people who want to feel like high rollers without actually being one. These machines often feature polished metal, dark wood trim, or exclusive branding like Royal Series. They're rarely loose, but they're visually irresistible. Even when they lose, players walk away with a sense of sophistication, as if they'd been part of something special. Casinos guard that illusion carefully. 4. The event slot. This one's clever. You know those giant branded machines, Wheel of Fortune, Game of Thrones, Lightning Link? Those are event slots. Casinos protect them not just for money, but for marketing value. When one of these hits a mini jackpot, the sound echoes across the floor. People look, gather, react. It's a moment, an event. Even if the payout is modest, the perception of excitement spreads. Casinos place these near drink stations, pit entrances, and escalators for maximum effect. They're not the most profitable per spin, but they generate foot traffic. They're also highly monitored because every spin is tied to brand licensing and data tracking. You can't hack them because the manufacturer and casino both watch them constantly. 5. The loss leader slot. This one surprises most people. Some machines are meant to lose money, not to the player, to the casino. They're usually older models, often in corners or near restrooms, low denomination, simple design. These machines run slightly above market payout percentages, maybe 97% instead of 94%.
Casinos use them as bait. They track which players frequent them, then offer targeted promotions, free play bonuses, or personalized invitations. The goal? To get those lucky players back on higher-risk machines later. That's why these machines stay operational even when they could be replaced. They're part of the casino's psychological economy. They buy trust, and the casinos protect trust more than anything. When you add these 5 categories together, the anchor, the algorithmic, the mirage, the event, and the loss leader, you see a pattern. Casinos don't just protect machines, they protect systems of belief. Each type reinforces the illusion that you can win if you just pick the right one. But in reality, the machines are working together, each designed for a specific type of player, each serving a function in the grand design of the floor. That's the real secret the smart players never see. They think they're playing against the machine, but they're already playing inside it. There's a saying we used to have on the inside: you can't beat a system you don't understand. And most players, even the smartest ones, never truly understand the system. When I worked the night shift, I'd often watch players I recognized from years past. They'd walk in with notebooks, charts, tracking apps. They'd whisper about pay cycles and trigger thresholds. And every one of them believed they were almost there. But casinos are designed around psychology, not luck. The floor layout, the sounds, the lighting, even the airflow are engineered to extend your playtime. The longer you stay, your highs-loss drift toward the statistical average. No matter how smart you are, you can't outthink an algorithm that studies you. Here's the truth most insiders won't admit. Casinos don't fear card counters or mathematicians. They fear emotionally detached players, the kind who walk away, the kind who don't chase, the kind who see the casino for what it is, an entertainment business that rents out dopamine. But casinos know that's rare, so they protect the illusion instead. When I left the industry, I took one last walk across the floor. It was 3 a.m., the quietest time of the night. The lights still shimmered, the machines still hummed. And even though most players were gone, some stayed, eyes locked on spinning reels, chasing patterns that didn't exist. I realized then that the casino didn't need to trick anyone. It just needed to give them hope. Hope is the most valuable currency on that floor, and the machines are its mint. When you walk into a casino, you're stepping into one of the most sophisticated behavioral laboratories ever built. Everything you see, from the carpet patterns to the sound of a fake coin drop, is engineered to shape behavior. The protected slots aren't just machines that make money. They're the machines that sustain belief. Belief that you can win. Belief that you're different. Belief that you've figured it out. That's the real protection. Because as long as you believe, you'll keep spinning. When you talk about these machines now, people often ask me, "So, how do I beat them?" And I tell them the same thing every time. You don't. You don't beat the machine. You understand it. You learn what it's designed to do, and then you decide whether you still want to play. If you play for fun, for entertainment, and you know what you're paying for, that's fine. But if you play believing you found the edge, you've already lost it. Because the edge doesn't exist. The house owns it. It always did. That's what the protected machines are really hiding. Not a secret code, not a rigged algorithm, but the truth. They don't need to cheat to win. They just need you to believe that you can. And in that belief, casinos find their perfect shield. So next time you walk across that glowing floor, remember this. Every sound, every flash, every near miss, it's not there by accident. It's there to keep you spinning. Because as long as you're spinning, they're winning.